So hey everybody, if you're watching, we got a special guest on the show this week. Sitting in for Blake, and this is why we're going live on Wednesday. We have Erin Richie on the show. So we're going to be sitting here. We're going to be doing a quick pre-show. It's going to be about 15 minutes this week, a little bit quicker than our normal pre-shows, and probably a truncated post-show. Not too much going on here, but main show will be in about 15 minutes. So skip forward there if you're watching later time. If you are watching now, you might notice some upgrades from a couple weeks ago. We got a motion background and the little banner up at the top there, and down in the bottom that corner over by Erin, we have our little logo. I'm very excited about all this stuff. We were able to get Restream thanks to all of our generous supporters. So, you know, your money is actually going towards making the show better, and we tremendously thank you for all that. So Erin and I are just sitting here. We are putting together the show notes right now, as we typically do in our little lead up to the show. Tonight we're talking about, what is it, Erin? It's cave syndrome, right?
Yes, cave syndrome.
Yes.
Something I can relate to.
I know. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, this will be a great story to chat about. Yeah. So, Erin, what we typically do here in the pre-show is we just sit and kind of banter while we put the show notes together. What's going on with you? Lots changed since you've been on the show last time.
Yeah. I think since we last chatted, I got engaged, moved to Michigan, and am house hunting. So lots of big life stuff.
Lots of big changes.
Yeah.
So while you are putting together the blurb, I'm going to look up some It Came From, and I'll just I'll kind of yell these out at you, and you let me know if it passes your gut check, if you think you got enough to talk about it on the show. Let's see. Oh, yes. Okay, feed looks good. Feed looks good. Cool. Don't need that going on in the background, though. All right. So here we go. Oh, yeah, we're trying. Oh, yeah. You know what I should check? I should check the other platforms while you're writing up the blurb. We expanded to a couple more platforms tonight as well because of the upgrade to Restream. We are now on Facebook. It's streaming to Facebook, presumably. I'm about to check. So we'll see.
Presumably Facebook.
Presumably, it could be there, could maybe not be there. I don't know. I'm looking now. It'd be cool to go live on Instagram, but I don't know if that's possible.
The gram is where I typically live in social media. On my dog account, not my people account.
For some reason, hold on. For some reason, these didn't update. There we go. Cave syndrome. Uh-oh. People might think we're doing 205 again. We're not doing 205. We're doing 206. Cave syndrome.
What do you mean 205, 206? What are these numbers?
So I have we have descriptions for these episodes, right? They're last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, Blake and Elise talked about brain signals for exoskeletons, and that was the leftover title. And now I need to make them all. I should have done this before we went live, but whatever. It's okay. We'll fix it.
Fun fact about Elise, we're all interconnected. She's my real life mentor. I don't know why I said real life. This is real life.
This is real life. Yes, we clearly we have friends of the pod everywhere. So
we have intertwined.
Yes, exactly. Let's see here. Okay, so it looks like we're live on Facebook. That's good. I'm still really bummed about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn requires you to have some history with your page, and because we were trying to do a big relaunch with everything with episode 200, it didn't allow us to do it. But I feel like that's going to change here because we've been posting pretty frequently over on LinkedIn. And if you're not already, go check us out on any of our socials. That's where we post all of our fun stuff. So we have like the weekly news that we do, the roundup that where we pull these news stories so you can see what doesn't make the cut. I'm sitting here getting frustrated over this week it was funny because my hotkeys weren't working as I was looking through the news, and it was very frustrating. And we also post other things, like we post our roundups for our Q&A stuff that we usually do for the It Came From section. So lots of good, valuable resource if you're wanting to follow us in different ways and can't listen to every show. All right. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to look for It Came From stuff. While how's the blurb coming?
Blurb's pretty set. I've narrowed us
Cool.
down to 3 little mini paragraphs.
Oh, yes, there it is. I see it. Okay, great. Let's see here. I'm going to read out some of these. You tell me yay or nay on whether or not you think it's juicy enough for us to sit and answer. Let's see. So we have... Okay, let's check this out. Where's all my stuff? Where's my stuff? It came from... There it is. Okay. So we got constantly feeling overwhelmed with work. Need advice.
Yes, that one.
That one? Okay.
Then what else is there? That's a good topic. But
yeah, the last the leading or the question that ends it off is what are some strategies and tips that I can use to manage this feeling and get shit done? Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Okay, so we'll do that one. That one is a good one. I usually pull like 3 or 4 of these. So we'll keep looking here. What about... Oh, this one's more of a philosophy one. And if anyone's in the chat too, feel free to chime in on these or ask your own questions. We can pull those in as well. When presenting a slide deck, do you begin with the problem and outcome or the research and discovery phase? And this is specifically for a case study. So, I mean, this is kind of like an open question to slide deck philosophy. That could be fun. I'm not super strong on it, but what do you think?
See, I'm more of a tell stories through pictures kind of gal anyways. I didn't have a thesis to finish my master's. It was coursework only. So I don't have strong opinions on deep school life.
Fair enough. How common is compulsory?
Academia, that's what deep school life is. Thank you. Words.
Deep school life.
Deep school life.
Enterprise design fundamentals. Okay, international URL sub. Okay, this is... So we're pulling these from all over. So we got some from like the UX subreddit. Some from the human factors subreddit. Some from HCI. They're kind of all over the place. Whoa. Ooh, I feel bad about this one. Is it normal to still be out of work for the last 19 months and have 38 interviews since my last role?
Oh, man, that's tough. But honestly, I feel like they're not alone right now. I feel like a lot of people are in that boat, pandemic, post-pandemic.
I don't know if I can talk to that one.
Still pandemic.
Yeah, still pandemic. Let's see here. Emojis and resume. God.
Oh, no.
Ugh.
If you're asking, maybe not.
Ooh, I panicked and hung up on my interviewer. Anyone care to share their botched interview stories?
That's pretty good.
That could be a fun one. Maybe we'll come back to that one. Let's see here. Stories about bad jobs on here discourage me from looking for a new job. Okay. Looking for a way to present table filters. Okay, that's a very specific question.
I don't know. The botched interviews is calling to me now.
Do you have an example of that? Like I don't have.
I do.
I nailed every interview. I mean, like I don't really have a bad interview I could talk about.
I have at least 2 stories that have popped into my head just now.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll come back to it if we can't find others. Master's in Human Factors Engineering and non-engineering degree undergrad. Okay, this feels like. Can you get a master's in Human Factors Engineering with an undergrad with a bachelor's in psych? Erin, answer this for us right now. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That's an easy question. Everyone gets a freebie here in the pre-show.
And I'll tell you where. Michigan Tech. Shout out to my alma mater.
There you go. Let's see here. Keeping on. I should have flagged some of these. Although it was weird because I did the news from the road last week, and I'm having a hard time remembering what I did because it wasn't documented on office hours, and I just kind of threw up some stuff.
Threw up? You just barfed it?
Barfed it out. I really did. And, like, I'm glad people are finding those useful. So we've been packaging up these like weekly news roundups. It's something that we've done for years. We just haven't actually packaged it up and sent it out, and people have been finding it very useful. So it's really nice. So yeah, now I'm going through all these ones since Blake and Elise did their show a couple weeks back, and I'm trying to find. Okay, this one could be interesting here. Best way to increase chances at getting accepted into grad programs. This one's like early career, or early human factors career, I should say. And this is talking about from like this perspective of a 3.4 GPA. So not, I mean, that's about where I was in my undergrad. And like, what can you do to help yourself?
I have ideas, but my approach was extremely unconventional. I was the first person through my program.
Oh, yeah. That is extremely unconventional, isn't it? All right. So not too great of a perspective there. Let's see. Okay. This one. Okay. How about this one? A difference between experimental psych and human factors engineering. Basically, what's the difference between the two? I'd imagine they're similar, but could a graduate or experimental psychology be able to find work as an engineer, or would I need to go to school for that? Are the classes essentially the same? So
I could talk a lot about this. Also, the term engineer overused.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Let's talk about. Okay, so we'll pull this one out. This one's a good one. Seems like we both have opinions on this, so this is good. So bring this one in, and then I think we'll find maybe one more. Learning information architecture. Interesting anecdote. Okay. Chunking out individual number entries into a form. Nope. Specific question. Some of these very specific questions are interesting to me. I feel like
that is the only place that will answer them sometimes.
I guess so. Like Stack Overflow is no longer a viable option. People just say, learn it, read a book, get good. I feel like we've talked about this a million times on the show, but I'm really curious about your perspective on this, Erin. Is it normal to feel like you don't know anything?
I could talk about that.
First, I was excited, but now I feel like I'm not ready. I feel like I'm good for a junior position, especially compared to my peers. I get hired at one of these places, and I'm scared I'm not going to know what to do or where to start. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for
Okay,
it.
we'll pull this one in. So we got 3 of them. So now we're about what 5? No, we're about 3 minutes out from the show. So what we'll do is we'll start the show here in a couple minutes. And then after the show, Erin, we usually just do a post show, like a how'd it go? What do you think? And then we're like all put together the thumbnails and all that stuff, and it'll be just a chance for us to kind of mention anything maybe we forgot on the show. I know this whole pre-show post show is new to you. Last time you were on the show, it was
just the show.
Yeah, it was just the audio version. We weren't doing video. It's what 180 something, right? That's when you were last on. I can check. Let's check the website.
I can't remember. I want to say yes.
You were last on the show. This is good information for me to. Oh, you got one more thing, by the way. The not at, right? That's what you were talking about, right?
Yep.
The not. I'll put it down here. And then I don't know if you want to write any specific notes to remind yourself down there, but there's a one more thing section below the it came from section, so you can feel free to add in whatever you like there. In the meantime, check out your page on our website. And you were, wow, really? 177 was the last time you were on.
Wow. That was a while ago.
Wow. That's insane. That's a long time ago.
Well, I've been on 3 times now. This is my 3rd time.
This is your 3rd time. Yeah. I have you as 170, 177, and then this will be your 3rd time. Cool. Yeah, no, that's great. Okay. I think, are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just scrolling back up to what I got to read here.
Cool. Yeah. So for everybody hanging out, just hang with us for one moment. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to start the show. And you'll notice something a little bit different here from previous weeks. So hope you enjoy. All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Human Factors Cast. We are recording this live on May 19th, 2021. I'm your host, Nick Roome, and I'm joined today by Erin Richie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Nick?
Good. Great to have you on the show again. Blake is out this week. He'll be back next week. Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. We're getting into Human Factors news. Yes, this is the part of the show all about human factors news. This is where we talk about everything related to the field of human factors. This could be anything related to medical, privacy, security, whatever it is, as long as it relates to the field of human factors. It's fair game for us to sit here and talk about. What do we got up first this week, Erin?
So we're going to talk about cave syndrome. I don't know if anyone else has heard of this with COVID having gone on in the past year or so, coming up on a year and a half. That's crazy to think about. But just a little blurb on it here. So after a year in isolation, many people who've developed an intimate understanding of what it means to socially isolate are afraid to return to their former lives despite being fully vaccinated. There's even a name for their experience, the clinical sounding cave syndrome. Jacqueline Gollin, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Northwestern University, says that adjusting to the new normal, whatever it may be, is going to take time. The pandemic-related changes created a lot of fear and anxiety because of the risk of illness and death, along with repercussions in many areas of life. She says that even though a person may be vaccinated, they still may find it difficult to let go of that fear because they're overestimating the risk and probability. In addition, a recent study by the American Psychological Association reported that 49% of surveyed adults anticipated being uncomfortable about returning to in-person interactions when the pandemic ends. When it ends, it has not ended yet, people. It found that 48% of those who have received a COVID vaccine said that they felt the same way.
So, Erin, where do you fall on this spectrum of feeling safe and comfortable with going out, no mask, all that stuff, and to I want to stay in my house for the rest of my life because I'm deathly afraid of everything that's going on? Where do you stand on that gamut?
I feel like I'm pretty dead in the middle. Okay. Until I was vaccinated, definitely did not like being around people. As of last Friday, we're 2 weeks out from our second shot. So my fiance and I are fully vaccinated, which that actually eased my fears a lot. We went out to eat for the first time in over a year at an outdoor restaurant. But so, being outside, I feel pretty safe now that I'm vaccinated. I don't feel pressured to wear a mask everywhere, especially with the new CDC guidance. And knowing that I can't transmit it, the probability of me transmitting it to someone else, even if I had it, even if I'm vaccinated against it, is low to my understanding. Don't quote me, people. I'm just explaining my viewpoint.
Quote Fauci. Quote Fauci. He said so.
So, yeah, I feel pretty comfortable now, but I don't like going into grocery stores where I have the impression that there's a bunch of people that are unvaccinated. Like, I don't like being inside with people that are unmasked. That it makes me feel like there's still a chance, which is, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm at this weird juncture here between the two gamuts. I feel like I'm right in the middle where you are too, but for different reasons. So, I am fully vaccinated. My wife is about, I don't know, a couple days from being fully vaccinated. She got her second shot on Saturday. It's Pfizer, so it's only a week out, right? So, we're almost there. And myself personally, I feel like I don't really necessarily have to wear a mask outdoors. I still do it to be polite if I'm passing somebody on the sidewalk or something. I do it for other people's peace of mind. It's not for me. But if I'm within like even 20 feet of somebody, I'll still mask up just to give that other person the peace of mind, because I do understand that it's this huge thing, right? So from my perspective, and from my understanding as well, I listened to an interview with Fauci where it's incredibly unlikely that you'll transmit something. So from my perspective, it's like, I don't care to mask. And right now I have like a massive peace of mind for myself that I'll be okay. And for my wife, she'll be okay. But we also have a small child. And while it's incredibly unlikely that he'll get it, we've still seen heartbreaking videos of children getting it. And so we are still incredibly careful with going to places that are, or coming within contact to people who are not masking and exposing ourselves to situations that could be high risk for him, right? So it's a weird world right now because he's way too young to get it. They haven't done the testing on infants yet, so we're thinking that he might get it in the next couple years is the timeline. But so it's going to be this weird limbo for us to navigate while the pandemic is ending. And I say that in quotation marks for anyone who's just listening. The pandemic is ending. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong if you don't, kind of keep in consideration that there are people who cannot get vaccinated for legitimate reasons, right? Like testing hasn't been conducted on children yet. And there are people who have adverse reactions to vaccines. That's not an excuse for you to use it as a fear-mongering thing and be anti-vax. Like, I think, vaccines are still incredibly valuable and useful. And anyway, that's kind of where I'm at on this whole spectrum. But I totally get what this article is saying here. This one's from Scientific American. And they are basically saying that those the changes that we've overcame in the last year have really altered the way that we view going out into public, and kind of has shaped how we as a society now favor, or not necessarily favor. There are people who definitely want to get out there. But there's this subset of people who need to be, or who are uncomfortable with going out to in-person interactions. And, to the point where, 48% of people who receive the vaccine feel the same way. That's an insane statistic to me.
Well, my mom is high risk, and she's vaccinated, but having that high risk factor, and no vaccine is perfect, right? But there's science that they can help. So I think that small percent risk is in her mind a lot, just knowing that if she were to get it, that her chances of survival are less than like the average person, right? So I know that's really weighs heavy on her mind, and it's made the way my entire family dynamic interacts is kind of different because of that, right? So I during like before there was a vaccine and during kind of like heavy COVID, Sean and I made decisions to like see our family, right? But we quarantined for 2 weeks ahead of time. Like all the interactions were outside, like, and we would like have groceries delivered and not do anything for 2 weeks and stay in our house until we saw that, family member. So, coming off of that and if you're somebody that really, made an effort to alter your life, and like from our standpoint, we just really didn't want to get anyone else sick. That was kind of weighing on our minds the most, I think. Because we actually did end up with COVID. I don't know how. Because we were pretty careful, but, we were just so worried about other people and not wanting to negatively affect someone else's life for so long. Now it's kind of like, even just, I'm kind of almost hoping that masks become like a thing that some of the population reverts to if they're not feeling well. Like, wear a mask into work if you feel like you have the common cold. I don't know. It just seems polite. And I know that in some other cultures that happens, but I feel like a lot of us have just altered our way of life so long, and there's kind of these two extremes. Like, it doesn't surprise me that this cave syndrome has come up, and it kind of makes sense. If you make such a big change in your life, humans kind of are adverse to change. And so why wouldn't you just keep on that path? I don't know. I feel like I definitely enjoy having less weekend plans and things too. It's kind of a nice change of pace in life almost.
Yeah, I think there's certain people who almost enjoyed when lockdown happened, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, now all these obligations that I had, now I can just stay at home and not have to worry about going out or how I look at the office every day because now I'm at home and doing video calls, so I just need to dress from the torso up. Like, I think there's a subset of people who enjoy that, and it's mostly introverts who don't really care to interact socially, as frequently as extroverts. And I definitely considered myself in that. There's that whole meme going around, right, where it's like, oh, what this is not normal behavior, or it's like it's the SpongeBob meme. I don't know. Anyway, it's it's one of those ones. But I think it goes to show that this pandemic is going to have lasting effects on the way that we interact with society. And I think this cave syndrome is just one of those aspects. And I want to keep focused on this cave syndrome, but I mean, there are a lot of other aspects of this that are going to really shape the way that we work and interact in the future, right? Like, people can work from home now, and it's been shown to be successful in some industries. And what does that mean? People relocate, right? Now you can work at the company that you work at and be in any state where the cost of living could be lower. And so we'll get like this big shakeup of demographics nationally, but focusing on the cave syndrome part of it, it's also going to shape the way that we interact with others. And I think this fear and anxiety about going out and interacting with other people when it's almost a demand from society is going to be a really difficult thing to overcome for a lot of people, myself included. Like, if there's a way to do something virtually, I will do it virtually right now. Like I said, for for the benefit of my son who is not protected. Once he is protected, then I'm going to feel a lot better about the whole thing. But for right now, it feels very much like okay, I'm good. My wife is good, but like this is going to be a weird couple years while this gets, tested on younger and younger children. When is his age group coming up? I don't know. So it kind of feels like still there's no end in sight, and that's probably just overprotective papa over here. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. So like my anxiety stems from lack of protection for my son, even though it's incredibly, incredibly not likely that he will get it. It's still just something that's like, I've seen what happens to children that get it, and it's horrifying. So I don't know.
I kind of wonder too, school-aged kids. This article specifically talks about cave syndrome in adults, right?
Right.
But we're coming upon, there's going to be a generation of kids who are at different developmental points where they were pretty much isolated for over a year. So I'm really interested in the effects that like this cave syndrome will have on an entire generation. Because Nick, like you're in my generation, we're already kind of maybe headed down the cave syndrome road to begin with. We have all these virtual opportunities to like hang out with our friends. I was just talking to my brother this past weekend about how I've made friends online for the first time because of the pandemic. Like I got really into dog Instagram. And I have people there that I would legit call my friends. Like one of them just had twins. I sent them a baby gift. I've never met these people in person. And we were kind of talking about how mind-blowing that is, right? And I wonder if our generation is already embracing these virtual opportunities and maybe this kind of cave syndrome lifestyle where in person you're with a couple people and you can still get this social interaction kind of elsewhere. What kind of effect is that going to have on, this next generation that maybe it's not a choice and it's not because they have this new technology they want to check out and social media is newer and whatever, but it's just because it's literally like what they had to do while they were growing up and it's how they learned to socialize. It'll just be really interesting to see how that plays out if it has any effect. Because we just don't know yet.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all really new, right? And I think this is paired with the decision from the CDC to lift some of the, or not lift, but to recommend certain things, right? So as of this recording, the CDC has said basically that you can wear a mask if you're vaccinated. You can basically enjoy life as if the pandemic doesn't exist. And I'm paraphrasing there, but the recommendation, or they basically say that you're unlikely to transmit to others, you're unlikely to get variants or be infected with variants of the virus, and you're unlikely to contract it, and even in the cases where you do contract it, you're unlikely to die. And so
Nick, I just got to jump in and caveat. So Nick and I are not immunologists. We've read this stuff on our own. These are our opinions on everything. We are not experts in the field, so take what we say with a grain of salt. And also, every state has different guidelines right now and how they're dealing with the CDC guidance. So this is our thoughts and how we're living our personal lives, but we are not experts in this field. We're talking about how it relates to psychology. Just want to be clear.
Thank you for that disclaimer, Erin. So yeah, I think, so that's what the CDC says. I think a lot of people have pushed back and said, well, that's not necessarily true everywhere. It might be the national rate is at a point where it's okay, but in some communities where there's a lot of people of color, disadvantaged people who can't get vaccines as easily as other communities, it might not be as a smart of idea to do that. And I think a lot of people are worried that they can't trust other people to, it's like, sure, I trust the guidance from the CDC, but I can't trust other people, and that's the issue. I can't trust them to be fully vaccinated. Like if you have one shot, is somebody going to jump off and say, yeah, I'm fully vaccinated, even though I have one shot? Or even, an anti-vaxxer, someone who comes in and says, I'm okay to go out because the CDC says if you're vaccinated, you have a mask. And so there's like all this, are we going to incorporate a vaccine passport or some way to verify that you have a vaccine, to enforce some of these situations. So I think there's still a lot of worry from people despite this new guidance. And I think as it relates to cave syndrome, right, there's a couple things I want to make sure we talk about here before we move on. Is one, what can we do to combat this cave syndrome? And two, how does this new guidance impact the way people are thinking about it? And I think the fact that the guidance is fairly new is a big deal for a lot of people feeling this way. And I think this is probably why a lot of people feel this way, is because restrictions are lifting. And so it's like, do we go back to that life we were living? Or do we continue to protect ourselves and wear a mask, despite what the CDC says? And it's like your level of comfort, right?
Well, and you brought up, like, you said three really interesting things right there, right? So you talked about trust, anxiety, and then like people kind of continuing to do what they want to do, right? And those are three really interesting topics in human factors, especially when you start to talk about UIs and all the other things. You know, why do people trust in the CDC or why don't they? And that's going to have a huge effect on how cave syndrome comes into play. And then, you know, continuing on, you know, what motivates people to do things. And my dad said something interesting over the weekend that like, he's going to continue to wear a mask, even though it might be okay, because it's the right thing to do. And so, and that's, you know, that's his opinion. But when you think about psychology and like what motivates people and, you know, do they have this intrinsic need to be good? Do they have an intrinsic need to help others? Do they have an intrinsic need to, you know, fight for their own family and things and make sure they're, I don't want to say selfish because that's not really right, but ensure that they are healthy. So I think all those factors really come into play when you're considering, you know, will somebody have this cave syndrome or not? And then the fact that there's also like this anxiety that comes into play, right? So, you know, are you already prone to be an anxious person? Are you like me and you have an anxiety disorder? So then if something like this comes up and you are worried about the world and your own health and everything else, like, are you more prone to continue to stay at home? It's just really fascinating, all these three things that I remember studying in school and that often come up as topics when we're trying to get people to accept a new UI, reflect here as well, right? So how do we continue to use what we know about those three subjects, anxiety, trust, and what motivates people, to maybe help get messaging out there that it really is okay and help people with cave syndrome feel like they can live their lives again if they're vaccinated, and help people that maybe don't understand how serious some of this stuff is, care about others. Like, how can we play at those three psychological phenomena?
Yeah, I want to touch briefly on what the article recommends for this, and because I think it's absolute bullshit, and I want to I want to say it because it makes me frustrated because I want something actionable that people can take away from this, and it's like, this is what the article says. I'm quoting directly. If a person has symptoms of exhaustion, depression, or anxiety, she advises measures that provide a sense of purpose in life, like meditation, faith work, prayer, playing or listening to music. Okay, fine. Yes, all those things are helpful, but like, that alone, I don't think is a sufficient answer. They do go on to say, you know, treatment for more extreme levels of anxiety could require effective psychotherapy with a mental health professional who can offer cognitive therapy or other treatments that gradually expose a person to a stressful situation to resolve their fears. And medication is also a solution. But I feel like that's not a good enough solution to this problem. It's like, listen to music, or, you know, find God again, or, you know, pray or meditate or something. It just doesn't seem like it's enough. It's kind of like, let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, versus actionable feedback that people can take. Like, hey, maybe to ease your anxieties, maybe follow the CDC and read what they say, you know, like actionable things that they can do. I think this list is bullshit. And it's in Scientific American. I hate it. Sorry.
It's such a new thing, though.
Yeah.
they probably don't have, like, we
They don't
know
have the data.
exactly, like preliminarily, they know those things will help, right? And as somebody with an anxiety disorder that I've been, diagnosed with since 2015, those things do help, especially in the short term. And so, if this is a new syndrome for you and it's your first time really feeling like clinical anxiety, maybe that will alleviate some of it, or maybe that'll kind of, solve it for some people. Mental health comes in colds or chronic conditions, just like physical health does. But yeah, I feel like they just need more data to have better solutions. Because, and maybe we'll see more data as this emerges as more of a prominent syndrome. I feel like if 48% of people who've received the vaccine feel the same way, that they're still not okay with leaving their house, we might have to do a mass study to help introduce people to the world again.
Yeah, I guess I say it's bullshit because it's stated matter of factly, like this stuff will help. And I think it does vary on person to person. I think there are much more actionable feedback, even from somebody who is not a mental health professional. I'm a psychologist, not a mental health professional. And so, like, even from my perspective, I feel like there are things that you can do, like I said, like follow the CDC's posts, stay up to date with what the latest numbers are in your area, because that might help you feel reassured that maybe you're going to be okay. Maybe there are, the vaccination rates are high where you are. And that's something that you can go out once you have that information and feel better about the whole thing. And, I'm not stating that matter of factly. I'm stating that as maybe this will help. And I think that's the way that's the way they should have phrased this. Also, not everybody here in the United States or even globally has access to things like mental health professionals. So to state that as a solution also feels a little off the mark to me. But I don't know. It's an interesting problem that has come up because of this thing, that it's one of those unintended side effects of this global pandemic that maybe we didn't even think about when it first happened. And it's kind of crazy to think about, right? Like, post-COVID world is weird and much different than we thought it was going to be. We all thought life was going to go back to normal after 2 weeks of lockdown, and now it's a year and a half later, and weird psychological things are happening to us as we go forward.
Well, and I think that this is an area of human factors that people often forget exists. Strategic messaging, understanding a local, national, global community, understanding how to get messaging out that reaches the majority or speaks to the majority. I feel like this cave syndrome is one area where, you could really hire for like public health experts, could also work with and hire human factors experts to really reconsider, marketing on the science that's coming out, both on the pandemic and on ways to alleviate the outcomes of the continuous outcomes of the pandemic.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I have any additional thoughts on this. I hate to leave it as like there's nothing we can do. It's just we do need more data, and maybe following some of the CDC's guidance and understanding how it affects you locally might help. Any other last thoughts on this, Erin, before we move on?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you to our friends over at Scientific American for this story, and thank you to our patrons for choosing our news story this week. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to see what's going on in the human factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Hey, huge thank you as always to all of our patrons, especially our honorary Human Factors cast staff, Michelle, Tripp, Patreons like you. Keep the show running, and thank you all so much for your continued support. If you do want to support the show, we have a couple ways that you can do that. Like I said, there's Patreon. We have just added a couple extra I don't know what their tiers. I don't know. We have a show sponsor level now. It's $300 a month. We basically air your advertisements in place of that commercial, and it's a way for you to get the word out. So if you're a Human Factors firm and you want to get access to a variety of Human Factors professionals, that's one way you can do it and support the show doing it. Again, we try to keep these things ad free, so that's only one of those available. So only one show sponsor at a time. Anyway, there's a couple other things that we're doing here. We got a merch store if you want to support us that way. I am wearing our Human Factors Cast logo t-shirt with me right now. There's a couple fun, cool designs. You can find the link for that all over the place. And, the patrons like you are actually making the show better. I want to say, like, if you're watching this on stream or after it's been recorded, you'll notice that we have a couple upgrades. I said this in the pre-show tonight, but there's it might seem minor to folks watching, but we have a motion background, which gives it a little bit more of a professional polish. We've got rid of the Restream branding, and now there's a nice little, I don't know, it just looks more polished, I think, and we can do more fun things like actually air our commercials and air our intro on these streaming services without me having to share my screen to do it. And it's a lot less clunky. And again, that's because people like you are supporting the show. So thank you so much for all of you folks. All right, we're going to go ahead and switch gears and get into this next part of the show we call It Came From. Yes, this is where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the internet is talking about, the community, the Human Factors community is talking about. Really, any topic is fair game as long as we have something to really talk about here on the show. So this week we got a couple of Reddit posts. I'm going to read these here and pass it over to you, Erin, once I read these, and you'll give me an answer. So we're going to start with this first one here from JessicaPerelman on the User Experience subreddit. This is constantly feeling overwhelmed with work. I have been in the industry for a few years now, and I still find myself overwhelmed with complexity and not knowing what to do next. I don't have this problem with more bounded and constrained projects where the problem and the outcome is more or less clear, but I can't seem to graduate to the next level where I can comfortably tackle complex, vague, and interrelated problems, which comprises most of my projects. What are some strategies and tips that I can use to manage this feeling and get shit done? Erin, how do you get shit done?
Well, so the first thing I would recommend to this person is, do you have a mentor in the field? Because if not, you need one. I mentioned earlier in the pre-show, I think that Elise, who's been on the show a few times, is one of my mentors. And then I have a couple more people that I lean on at work. And just kind of level setting with them and letting them know that you want to graduate and get to that level can sometimes ease a lot of worry and anxiety you might have over this, and just let you know that that's normal. You can't become an expert in your field in a couple years. It takes time. You don't know what you don't know, and it's okay to keep learning. And one of my more senior mentors was just telling me the other day that she's just finally getting to the point in her career that she's starting to really feel like she kind of knows what she's doing. And she told me, fake it till you make it. Just be confident and go for it. And I think there's something to that, right? I had a really tough project this week that I was working on, and I confessed to the person I was working with that I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I know what's going on. I'm trying my best. Here's what I came up with. And they were like, we all feel that way. You did a great job. And I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea. So talking about it is the first step, because we're just in one of those fields where problems are really complex. And I mean, we're expected as human factors engineers and human factors professionals, applied cognitive scientists, to learn about somebody else's career in like, days, weeks, months. And become experts in it, and then explain it to other people to explain where the shortfalls are and what they need. And so, I think it's normal to feel that way, is my point. Nick, anything to add?
Yeah, I do. I think your first point about talking and communicating is pretty key here. And I think a lot of this can stem from understanding the problem space. Understanding what your role is on a project specifically. You're talking, this person here is talking about complex, vague, interrelated problems. And to that, I would say, well, get clarification on what the problem statement is. What is it that you're trying to do? Ask questions until you know exactly what you need to do. Ask questions of the people, not only the users, but ask questions of the people who are writing things like the requirements. What do they have in mind for this thing? Ask questions of the people who are commissioning the work, the clients, right? Are you in-house with a large tech company and you have a product manager that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of until you get some clarification? Or are you working as a contractor for somebody else, like that you can just ask and get clarification on what they're looking for? A lot of this communication can help narrow down the scope when something seems like it's a big problem to tackle. And it can be a huge problem to tackle. But if you break it down into chunks, manageable chunks that are all interrelated, see what I did there, then I think it becomes less vague. And, the complexity might not go away, but you'll also have a better idea of how to tackle it. I think there's also the organization bit, right, of laying out the problem space of all the things that you need to do or that needs to be done for a product, and kind of manage it through some task tracking software, right? You can use that as a tool, or just write it all out on a whiteboard and cross it off. There are many ways that you can track work. But I feel like complex problems need to be broken down into these buckets of work, so that way you can tackle one chunk at a time. And that way, if you're tackling one chunk at a time, it becomes less and less of a sort of insurmountable task and becomes more of like chunks of work, right? This is what the whole agile framework is kind of based off of, is breaking down one big chunk of work into smaller chunks that you can do in like little bits and pieces. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I know projects can seem like really, really intimidating when you come into them, and they're just so big. Like, where do you start, right? I mean, I've definitely had that moment where I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be something. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one, Erin, before we move on?
And just, I don't know, find your inner confidence too. And I know that's easier said than done, but like, even if it doesn't feel like it, you're probably doing good work. And so just kind of find comfort in that and those small wins too. Like, it's okay if you don't know everything.
Yeah. So to recap, ask questions, find a mentor, break things down into chunks, and find your confidence. All right, we'll get into the next one here. Difference between experimental psych and human factors engineering. This one's from Random Actor 20 on the Human Factors subreddit. They go on to write, what's the difference between experimental psychology and human factors engineering? I'd imagine they're similar, but could a graduate of experimental psychology be able to find work as an engineer, or would you need to go to school for that? Are the classes essentially the same, besides less math for experimental psych graduates, I would imagine, since it's not engineering? And if someone has any experience, how much math do you take in a human factors engineering program? Side note, I'm genuinely curious. Do any schools offer solid programs? Okay, we'll not answer that. So let's talk about the first half of this question here. Experimental psych and human factors engineering. Erin, what do you think?
Okay, so they're definitely different. I feel like experimental psychology really is about making new discoveries in psychology. It's more like classical psychology. You know, when you think about like old cartoons, rats in a cage kind of learnings.
Inner box.
Right. Human factors engineering is completely different, and it's a term I get a little hypersensitive on because I went through classical engineering training. So I have a degree in mechanical engineering, and then I did a master's in applied cognitive science and human factors. So I feel like this person is perhaps asking, they seem to understand there's a lot of math in engineering, but I feel like this person is perhaps asking about being a human factors professional versus experimental psychology is maybe where they're kind of going with the question. But human factors engineering in practice, what I really view it as and feel like there's a strong difference between human factors professionals and human factors engineering is not really consistent with how it does in fact work in industry. So, but human factors engineering, to me, you have some sort of engineering background and you're really UI, consumer product, similar things focused, and you're working on things that people will likely be using every day and making sure that you're not, putting a push handle on a pull door kind of stuff. Whereas experimental psychology, you're, looking for those new discoveries, looking to turn theories to fact, that kind of avenue. Would you agree, Nick?
So for me, I think of experimental psych as like academia, and I think of human factors engineering as industry. And I think there's overlap there. Especially if you're in like cognitive psychology, I think that you could very easily navigate from a position in academia into, a human factors engineering role in industry, where maybe there's your specialty of knowledge, your research area. You could take that and apply it to some human factors engineering aspects, and that might be the gateway, right? So I think of them as two separate things. I think there's overlap, certainly, with the psychology bit. I think the thing for me, and I know people get hung up about the engineering term. Like I've definitely met people who are like, that's not engineering. They're not writing requirements the way they should be writing requirements. And that's fair, but like, understand how to write requirements. If that's part of your job, then understand, like, I don't know. I feel like the human factors engineering piece is being able to apply a toolkit that you learn in school or on the job to a variety of different problem spaces. And I think experimental psych is more along the lines of, hey, we don't know about this area. Let's test something to figure out if that is indeed the case. And that's kind of the difference that I see between the two. It's like applying a toolkit towards something versus seeing if something is, I don't know, feasible, if that's the word for it, or see if it's true, right?
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement that there's definitely differences, and we're also in agreement that, you probably could, with experimental psychology background, you probably could do human factors engineering, and with human factors engineering background, you probably could do experimental psychology. But there are different strengths in the different degrees, and their question about math. If you go about human factors engineering the way I did, you get the classical engineering degree first. Yeah, there's going to be a hell of a ton of math, but I don't think I can really speak to if you go classical psychology into, or, they're starting to come out with Bachelor of Science programs in human factors now too. It's not just a master's only program. So I have a hard time answering that question. Like if you get a bachelor's in human factors engineering, how that might differ from a bachelor's in psychology.
I can speak to that a little bit. So, I mean, at least from my perspective, I was fortunate enough to have professors that were very math focused in terms of like research methods and statistics and statistical analysis. And so from my perspective, I feel like there was enough there to understand that. And then once I got into the human factors program, we talked about things like specific math equations when it comes to things like ergonomics, where you have the human body acting on forces or forces acting on the human body that dramatically change the way a human can interact with a product, machine, interface, that type of thing. And so that's, I think, where the most equation heavy thing is. Of course, there is a ton of math involved with something like perception of color, or even distance, optimal distance between interfaces, and that's more like human computer interaction. You can certainly go that route to find what the optimal distance between two displays are, or that type of thing, and you can get very metricsy with that. But I think just generally, if you're looking at the sort of human factors toolkit, there's a variety of methods that you can employ to interact with users. And I really struggle with this one, because you could go down that route and you could work at a company that really wants to know the focal point of, like what's the optimal font size based on how far away the operator's sitting from the display. And that's a lot of math involved with that. But you can also go, this looks good enough. I can see it. Are they going to be able to see it under these specific lighting conditions that they're in? I don't know. But that's something that you go out and test. And you can do your research in those situations. And I'm speaking from experience here. I've had a project where I actually had to do that, right? There's some specific lighting conditions. They were under a blue light. And so it's we had to take that into consideration with what font color and size we used on the screen. They're sitting a distance away from the computer. There's a lot of math involved in that. With developing like a style guide for that type of thing. But, that's then once that math is done, then you just employ it in whatever interface that fits the bill for that specific application. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Anything else to add to this, Erin?
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think I would just add all the time, one of my mentors always says, like, psychology is as much a science as it is an art. And so I think whichever field you go into, there's definitely art mixed with the science. You're not going to get away from math either way.
Yeah. You'll be all right. How about that? All right. Yeah. So we got one more here. This is it normal to feel like you don't know anything? This is from
this question.
This is from saddittygyal on the user experience subreddit. Sorry about butchering your name. I have a few interviews coming up in my first job or internship. At first, I was excited, but now I feel like I'm not ready. I feel like I'm a good for a junior position, especially compared to my peers. But if I get hired at one of these places, I'm scared I'm not going to know what to do or where to start. I feel like when I graduated, I got thrown off of a ledge, and now I'm in free fall. Maybe I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, and if I am, it's terrifying. What if I get hired and I can't deliver? What if my work sucks? What if I can't give them what they need? I don't know how to run a workshop. I don't know how to do a lot of things. I'm used to school solo projects. I don't have the confidence. Any confidence in interviews I project is 100% a lie. I'm scared they'll hire me and find out. Erin, this is an imposter syndrome question, and it's like how to overcome that. Have you experienced imposter syndrome?
Every day.
Good.
I feel like, is it normal to feel like you don't know anything needs to meet up with constantly feeling overwhelmed with UX work, and like take them on as a mentor, and then constantly feeling overwhelmed with UX work needs their own mentor. We need to like love connect these two in the UX community.
Yeah. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. It can be difficult to acclimate to that and what it means for you in a new position, especially if you're junior. And people, just because you're junior doesn't mean doesn't mean imposter syndrome goes away. Even years into your professional career, you can still experience that, especially if you're working with a new company and they do things slightly different than another company that you worked for. You can very easily step into a role and be like, okay, well, I'm way out of my element here. This is way different than I thought it was going to be. And still experience imposter syndrome. I think for me, the thing that helped with imposter syndrome is understanding that the place that hired you for a reason. even if the confidence that you projected is 100% a lie, I think they still understand that at some level, you are qualified for that job. And I think everyone should kind of take that at face value. Like, people are very selective with who they hire. I can think of very few instances where somebody slipped through the cracks and was a bad hire. And when they were, it was a really bad hire. But like, I mean, people do their due diligence on you, and you have to understand that, they understand what they're getting with somebody coming straight out of college. They know that you don't have the years of experience that somebody else might have. And so imposter syndrome is something that you should experience almost. I mean, like, if you don't experience it, I almost feel like you have too much confidence. It's like you should constantly be guessing whether or not the thing that you are doing is correct. Or I wouldn't say guess. You should constantly evaluate whether the thing that you're doing is correct. I don't know. Where are you at with all this, Erin?
Well, I'm just reflecting on their first question. Is it normal to feel like you don't know anything? Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
But it's also normal and important to realize that, you didn't need to be that hard on yourself. Everybody is new at some point. Everybody, takes time to build their confidence. And like I said about this constantly feeling overwhelmed with UX work blurb, like, you don't become an expert in your field overnight. And if somebody's expecting you to do that, then like, look for other employment. But, it's okay. And I think a lot of us feel that way. I feel that way. I've been in the professional setting for 2 years, and I still feel like I'm learning and there's more I can know. And, I wonder if Jimmy Joe sitting next to me is killing it more than I am. Like, I think that's just kind of human, especially, it sounds like you did really well in school and you were really well at getting your work done on your own. That's kind of the way I was in school too. And so I think if you're just kind of naturally already that way, where you're like, am I being the best I can be? When you get into the real world and you're doing a job for the first time, it's normal to continue to ask yourself, am I being the best I can be? And the answer is probably yes most of the time, and that's okay.
All right. Any other closing thoughts on this one? I think imposter syndrome is a terrible disease that we need to eradicate, but that's just me. Have faith in yourself, right? You're doing the right thing, and they hired you for a reason. That's
yes.
All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get into one more thing. This is self-explanatory. It's the opportunity to talk about one more thing. Erin, what do you have for your one more thing?
So my one more thing is, so I'm planning a wedding right now. I mentioned earlier, since last time we talked, I've gotten engaged, and I'm not one of those girls that's been imagining it since I was like 5. So I succumbed to the targeted Facebook ads of trying the Knot app, and I was like, not really expecting much, kind of like, you see this all over the place, whatever, and was really surprised at how user-friendly it is. Like, it was really nice. I ended up recommending it to a friend who's also getting married soon. I was like, wow.
So what makes it user-friendly? Is it just like it gives you step-by-step of like, hey, these are things that you should think about for this thing? And
yeah. So it has an entire place where you can lay out your budget, and it has suggested, like, you can add or delete whatever category you want, but it also has suggested categories that people think about, like that they've got from statistics of people using this app or whatever, I assume. And then they also have a checklist of things you should be considering and when, based on your estimated like date you're going to get married. So they lay out like how early you should be looking into hotels and your venue and all this other stuff. And it's really nice. Like, it's just this really long checklist, and you can look at all the things you've done and all the things that you have to do. And then they also have this really cool tool to build like a free website to, put all your information for your guest or whatever, which I thought was weird and hokey at first, but then I really like got into it just because it was so easy to build. And it looks nice. And I don't like coding. I know I said earlier I have an engineering background, but like coding is not my thing. And so like I built this whole website on this phone app, and like you can pull it up on your computer and it looks nice. And that just blew my mind. Like knowing how hard coding is and that they made it so easy that you can just like anybody having a wedding can make this little website. It's just pretty cool tool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I imagine, let me ask you a question. Is it like where you put in certain parameters, like I want 50 guests and my budget is this many dollars and I want it at this location? And does it come up with like, oh, hey, here's a venue that fits your budget and can accommodate this many guests? Is it like that?
Yeah, there's also
wow,
a function like that. Yeah. And it'll suggest everything like photographers, florists, venue, even officiants. It's like, and it kind of like, it targets the ads based on sort of where you are in your, checklist, which is kind of cool. Like it's just really a smart app and they've thought it through. And as somebody that really thought it was going to be hokey and stupid, I am impressed. And they have convinced me that they are definitely worthwhile. And if you're getting married, you should check that app out. Not a sponsor.
Yeah, well, we'll put a link down in the description below. For me, my one more thing is a fitness tracking app. So I was actually so I got a couple things to talk about. So I was actually out of town last week. And while I was out, my Samsung Galaxy Active, whatever it was, it messed up on me. I think I went swimming and the screen started crapping out on me. So, like I didn't have a fitness tracker that I could reliably check out, and that's really important to me because it's how I track. Oh, was I sitting on the couch all day, or actually did I get up and start moving and kind of track those types of things? And so for me, I guess I got the Samsung one back in 2017, 2018. I've had it for a couple years. I think I've had it for 3 years, so it's 2018. Before that, I was exclusively Fitbit just because I wanted to keep it all in the same ecosystem, and I was willing to like look elsewhere for a different type of type of tracker. And for me, the Samsung Galaxy was kind of the solution because it was able to track like blood pressure from your wrist, and that's a pretty big deal. So eventually, that what's the word I'm looking for? That feature never came to it, and so I was stuck with this app that I didn't really, or this watch that wasn't really in my ecosystem, and it wasn't kind of good for the thing that I wanted it for, and it didn't interact with my current ecosystem with Fitbit. And so like I had all this automation going on behind the scenes to make sure that the tracker stuff came into Fitbit and made sure it was a mess. But my first thing is that I switched back to Fitbit. I'm really happy I did. I think there's some cool stuff going on with this smartwatch that a lot of it is the same as the other one, but there's a couple neat like bells and whistles that I really enjoy playing with. The second thing I want to talk about is I was out of town and I was at a hotel. And so basically what I did was I was like, can I get this thing delivered to the hotel? And I looked at, Amazon, and they were like, oh, there's a couple lockers nearby and we can have it to you tomorrow. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I actually, ordered it and it delivered to a locker in, a place 1,000 miles away from home that I picked up and was able to get and set up like the next day. And that was pretty incredible to like just walk in and have this new thing that, I didn't have before. And so lots of stuff going on, but I'm very happy that the experience with setting up Fitbit, I remembered all my settings from years ago, and it just kind of pulled them back in. And it's like, hey, I know you've been gone for a while, but here's everything.
Nick, I gotta know, is this one waterproof?
I think so. I think the other one was water resistant. I thought I could go swimming with it. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was just old, but it still works. It still tracked everything. I just couldn't get to the screen. The one thing I will say that like Samsung does right is that I can't quick add calories from this Fitbit, but I could from my other one, and that's really important to me. So I'm tracking how much I intake versus how much I burn off in a day, and that's important to me. But so now I have to use the phone app, and it's a little clunky to like go out of my way. But who knows? Google just announced a whole slew of new updates to their Wear OS, and they own Fitbit, so maybe it'll all work itself out.
Have you heard of the Wise brand? W-Y-Z?
I have. Yeah.
So Sean just switched to that for his fitness tracking, and it was only like the watch was like $20 or $30, which is really cool. But so far pretty comparable to the other stuff. And you actually turned me on to the Wise Cam did I?
a couple of years ago. So
I'm a big fan.
yeah. So yes, we're familiar with the brand. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for one more thing. And I think that's going to be it for today, everyone. Let us know what you guys think of the news story this week. Are you experiencing cave syndrome? Let us know. You can hang out with us on our Slack or Discord or get to us on any of our social channels. You can visit our official website and sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, you can leave us a 5-star review on your podcast medium of choice, and if it allows for reviews. If not, you can tell your friends about us. That really helps the show grow. Or 3, if you're financially able, consider supporting us on Patreon. It helps us do really cool things like this new video thing that we have going on here. It's really awesome. And as always, links to all of our socials and our website can be found in the description of this episode. I want to thank Erin Richie for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about that beautiful view of that lake behind you?
You can find me on LinkedIn right now. Yep.
Great. As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me streaming on Twitch on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific for office hours and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends. Say it. Say that it depends.
It depends.
Perfect. I'll edit and post. All right. If you're on the stream with us, stick with us. We're going to do a quick post show here. Yeah, that was it for the show. So this is now our post show, I guess.
I always mess up the it depends.
That's okay. I'm actually glad it happened that way, because when I go back and post, I will chop it up and overlay it so it'll sound like we're saying it together. See how that works? That was a fun one. I really had fun with that episode. I think cave syndrome is interesting to me. I think it's a huge opportunity for researchers.
I feel like I need to talk to some family members about it.
Yeah. Man, like it really is real. Let me just put it that way. Like, so this is the post show. I feel like, oh no, hang on. Hold up. So yes, if you're with us, if you watched the show tonight, thank you for sticking around. We appreciate you watching us live. If you have any questions and want us to address it in the post show, feel free to slap them in the comment section or chat section, wherever you're watching this at. I know we're across a couple different mediums for your viewing convenience. I don't know. But right now, while we're doing this, I'm going to, Sam actually writes in, says, congratulations to you, Erin. Great stuff. Yeah. Yeah, here you go. Look, see, there you go.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
Sam Ness.
Yes.
Oh, it's nice to see him. Sam and I, for those of you watching, we're co-workers, and he went on to bigger and better things a few months back. So, yeah, nice to hear from you, Sam. Hello.
Yes. Sam, I noticed Sam has been watching a couple weeks here in a row. So thank you for watching, Sam. Really appreciate it. All right. So I am going to get these thumbnails up and running here. And shoot. I had it ready to go. There we go. All right. So we're going to go tiny mode, and we're going to get the, there it goes. Actually, I need to post.
All of this is new and unexpected to me. I'm enjoying with the viewers.
Wait, this is not the pre-show. This is the post-show. There we go. Yeah, look at that. So we need to first change this name. What do we want to call it? This is COVID-19 cave syndrome. Is that what the title that we came up with here? COVID-19 cave syndrome. There we go. Perfect. And then we just need to center those, I think. Those don't look perfectly centered to me. This is like the lamest part, because I feel like I suck at making these thumbnails. And so it's like just people watching me struggle here. So, look at that. I need to figure out that logo. We'll just do it this way, because.
I was just going to lean around it.
Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out for next week. Okay, so what image should I use for this? What do you think of when you think of cave syndrome?
I feel like we need a caveman.
Let's see here. Cave syndrome. I'm just going to Google it. Actually, hang on. We have a free images, free stock photos.
I'm picturing like Fred Flintstone.
Okay. Caveman syndrome.
Yeah.
Here, let's. Cave syndrome. Ooh. Hold on. I got a good one. How about this? I feel like, hang on. We'll download this and we'll put this in here. What does this seem like cave syndrome to you?
Oh, do you know I've been there, Nick? That's
Have you? This is perfect. Then. We'll use this.
That's the window. It's in Puerto Rico. It's like the window hike, Ventana.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll use this then, since you've been there. That's perfect. COVID-19 cave syndrome. I think that's a pretty inoffensive thumbnail. I like it.
Inoffensive?
Yeah, well, I mean, like you want to, I don't know, like the rules around thumbnails are weird, right? You want to make something that's enticing and that people question, like, oh, what is that? What is cave syndrome? Is this person in a cave? What are they doing? It's kind of clickbaity, but at the same time, it's like, it works. I don't know. Here, let's bring, let's see. Actually, we could probably do all this in one-liner here. COVID-19 cave syndrome. We have to make 2 thumbnails. We have to make one for the like podcast artwork that goes out with the episode. Then we have to make one for YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff. That's a little wider format. So what we'll do here is we'll come back. We'll grab this image.
Nick, do you watch Good Mythical Morning?
I do not. Although I know a lot of people who do.
Would highly recommend, but I love their take on the thumbnail. They're always like frequently in their show, at some point, they're always like, now smile like you're not posing for a thumbnail. And it's just funny.
What do we think about this? I don't like that it's kind of cut off here, or that it doesn't take up the whole screen. Maybe I can. Oops. Then I feel like the window will go away, right? Like, will it still convey that we're in a cave?
Oh.
See, so we got...
Oh,
you know what?
I
think that works.
Yeah.
That works. I like it. So that's the thumbnail. That's it. That's what we do during the post show. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's it. What else do we normally do during the post show? It's just kind of like a catch up. What else is new with you?
I'm house
I caught
hunting.
you off guard. You're house hunting.
You did.
You're house hunting us too. We're not actually house hunting, but we're like in the preliminary phases. We've talked to a real estate agent. That whole process is interesting. Housing market sucks right now.
Yeah, that's about where we are. I think the coolest thing we've learned is that you don't need 20% down to buy a house. You don't. You can buy a house with 3%.
3 to 5, yeah. It is pretty cool. Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously, the more down you have, the better your chances are going to be. And there's like so many other hidden fees and stuff associated with buying a home. It's like you got to pay the realtor, and it's insane how much you actually have to consider for that. Wait, what did I do?
Big kid stuff.
Big kid stuff, yeah, for real. Like, I don't know. We're the trip we just took was to the Pacific Northwest, and we're looking in that area because we really like. We were in Idaho for a couple years and took several trips over to the like western side of the Pacific Northwest. Funny enough, Idaho is still considered Pacific Northwest, even though it's like one state in. It wants to be Pacific Northwest so badly. But yeah, we lived up there for a little bit and really liked the area. So we, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, we're looking up there for homes, but right now we're we were up there actually looking for apartments, so that way we could buy us some time while the real estate market kind of cools off before we buy a home.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know a couple places we're looking right now. Some areas are sort of on fire, and then luckily we kind of want to be out in the country and like that more secluded cave syndrome lifestyle.
Yeah, so, there you go.
So most places we're kind of really interested in, we want like at least an acre, tend to be cheaper, luckily.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what we're looking at too. We're looking at a little bit of land to like, let the boy stretch his legs and grow and give us a lot of options with the home itself, right? We each kind of want our rooms, and we want enough room to grow a family. It's the housing market is just crazy right now, crazy competitive, and I think we'll see a crash here. Next year when everyone starts getting evicted because they can't pay. Like, it sucks to say, but I think that's what's going to happen, right? I think people are going to get kicked out of their homes because they can't afford it, because all the protections from COVID have worn off, and demand will kind of go down for homes, and it'll go up for like cheaper units. And it sucks, but I think that's what's ultimately going to happen.
I mean, yeah, economics is my brother's specialty, not mine. But seems reasonable.
Yeah, I who knows? What does your brother think about all this retail investing thing with like the dog money and the like GameStop thing?
You know what? We haven't really talked about that. We did talk about the other night around like the campfire. He was telling me about how economics plays a role with like raising minimum wage, and had some really interesting insight that I didn't even realize about how raising it too fast can potentially collapse like an economy, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't raise it. And so that's our most recent topic. He was educating me in that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to follow all this stuff. Like, everyone got into it in January, and then the market crashed over the next couple months, and then is still kind of recovering from it. It's kind of seems like it's bottoming out now, but who knows? It could be a further bottoming out happening, further correction. And then, the whole crypto market is like crashing over the last week or so, like after Elon Musk's appearance on Saturday Night Live. Like, I don't think it's because of that. I think people are just kind of, I don't know. I feel like people are discovering cryptocurrency for the first time, and they're like not quite sure what it is and what the purpose of it is. And everyone's kind of just investing in what they find funny and dog money. And so, I mean, I'm all for just research what you're putting your money into. That's, I guess, my point there.
Yeah. Or research a good person to tell you where to put your money.
There you go. That too. All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and cut our post-show short. I think I'm going to get started on this post-show checklist that I do. It's quite long, quite intense, to make sure that this episode goes out to all of you. I know we aired this a week early, or not a week early, a day early for everyone. So thank you for sticking with us and joining us on this Wednesday night. I know we typically record on Thursdays, but we'll be back next Thursday. And special thank you to Erin Richie. No longer to be Erin Richie someday soon, right? When's the wedding?
It'll be next year, May 20th. And yeah,
okay, so about a year away. Ooh. About a year away from tomorrow. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I'm so happy for you guys. All right. Well, thank you, Erin, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for joining us live. Like I said, I know it's a little bit of a schedule change, but we'll be back at our normal time next week. And I'll be back for office hours on Tuesday. Not sure if Blake will be around for his office hours on Sunday, but Please check back then. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much. All right, bye-bye.